Black women out here living our best life, and we gonna talk about it on the Cute Shoes channel. What's up, y'all? You just tuned in to the Cute Shoes channel, your virtual hangout spot on the chill side of the internet. Your host is Dr. Akua Rose Feathers, and she is going to guide you through the legacy-making brilliance, vulnerability, and awesomeness of Black women. Oh, this is not just a web channel. This is a spotlight, a stage and sanctuary for the rich mosaic of experiences, dreams, and triumphs of Black women. So, kick off your shoes, grab your favorite drink, and chill with us as we dive into some real talk. Let me tell you who's on the show today. On the show today is Latoya Benson. Latoya activates high-performing women leaders to own their difference, be the exception, and create a revolution. Let's get to that conversation.
Hey, I'm excited.
This is about to be fun. So I want to talk about the work that you do. So describe for us, what is the work that you do?
That's a loaded question.
Yes.
Sometimes I find myself asking myself, so what is it that you do? Because like many of you that may be watching or listening, I'm multifaceted. And so I do a lot of things, but it's all connected, interconnected to that one overall purpose. And so basically at the root, I help individuals, leaders, women leaders specifically, grow personally, spiritually, and professionally. So that is a basic statement of what I do. But in that, I help women build their businesses as entrepreneurs. I help women discover their difference and what they're called to do in the world. And I help them create a framework around that. I help them grow the confidence to be able to stand in that and own it, to speak to whatever their audience is in whatever ways that they speak, whether that's speaking professionally, whether that's through teaching, training, coaching, programs, whether it's through selling your products and your services. And so that is a little short statement about what I do.
It's a nutshell, y'all. I'm trying to tell you, we're going to talk a little bit more about how people can look you up and how you can find you. And when y'all hear that website, go immediately. Run, do not walk, do not stop, do not collect $200. Go directly to the website, because I'm telling you, just in the time that we've known each other, 10 years? It's been more than 10 years, about 10 years, get more, not take, but give. So it might be more. I've seen so many iterations of what you can do. And I know it's not even like, I don't even think I've seen the tip of the iceberg, and the way that you empower people. And I think I want to hear your response to this statement. First of all, dang it. How long have you been doing this? How long have you been just in this world of entrepreneurism?
Yeah. So I would say for entrepreneurship, technically in December of this year, it will be 10 years. But yes, 10 years milestone. But I was also doing it and I wasn't aware that I was operating in business. So if I add that, about 15 years.
Okay, so that makes me think that I've known you longer, because I knew you when we're going to talk about that place that you worked at, but I knew you when you still worked at that place. And I knew you when you made the transition. So I've known you for longer than 10 years. So man, there's so many questions. So you just said a couple of things. You've been doing what you're doing now in a form previously. How do you know that, you know what, it's time for me to, to leap out and just let this thing be my main thing? How does a person know that?
Well, for me, it was a spiritual thing. It was internal, right? And so I think we all have desires. And so I always have been a leader, but I didn't always know that entrepreneurship was going to be a path to that. And so while I was working, I started while I was working my good government job, I started discovering
benefits.
with benefits. Come on. And the job that you could work a little bit and not work a little bit and still get paid. I was working that job. And I started to grow into like desiring more and wanting more as I was discovering myself and who I was. And so in discovering that, it started kind of opening up a Pandora's box, like of different possibilities and different options for me. And so in that, I started having these desires, like, I think I want to work for myself, but I don't know where that came from. I don't know what to do with that. I haven't necessarily seen it. My uncle is the only person in my family that was an entrepreneur. And so I was like, I don't really know exactly how to do that. And so I started just digging deeper into it. And that kind of led to knowing that my desire wasn't a desire, but it was really something that I was called to.
Oh, that's good.
And so you asked the question about how do you know, like when it's time? The funny thing was when I wanted to leave my job, and disclaimer, I'm not telling anybody to leave their job because that's a whole nother conversation, right? But for me, it was something spiritual. It was more than just like leaving a job, right? So when I wanted to leave my job, I wanted to get out of my job. I was going to my job, and at the time I was married, and my husband at the time was like, if you don't get yourself together, I'm tired of you crying going into this office. I was unhappy because I knew that the work that I was doing it didn't equate to the fullness of who I was and what I could do. And I was kind of just, I had gotten all the steps and all the raises that they were giving me an opportunity to get. And now I'm here for years stuck in a place where I'm like, there's more. And so I was like, I'm going to leave this job and I'm just going to start a business. I had no idea what that was. And God was like, oh, for real? No, you're not. You're not gonna do that. And so I'm like, and then my husband at the time was like, oh no, we got bills to pay. No, you coming into this job every day, go get a massage or do something, but leaving it's not an option. And I got settled in it, and I said, you know what? I'm going to take the initiative. I'm going to insert myself into different ways that I can, try to make the organization better or try to do more. And I got okay with where I was. And then maybe you might want to go into that later. Then when I got the word that it was time to leave, I didn't want to go.
Yeah.
Isn't that strange? When I wanted to go, it was like, this is not the time. And when now I've gotten settled in saying, I'm just going to accept this and make it work for me, it was like, okay, now go.
Yeah, I think that's a common place to be in. I think because, and sometimes we mark it by I wanted it versus I didn't want it. But what I heard you say was it wasn't time. So whether I wanted it or not, if it wasn't time, it wasn't for me to do. And you said something, and I can't understand my scribble. Oh, you talk about the work that you do to help people, like as they are going into their journey of entrepreneurialism. And then you talk about, even the conversations you were having with the person you were married to back then, and how they was like, you don't need a job. And then you talked about, and I think probably so many Black people can relate to this, you got to get a good job with benefits and you got to stay there. Like that's the advice that we get. But so many people experience that thing that you talked about. I loved that you got this desire that is so much stronger than a desire. It's not just, oh my gosh, I really want to, leave this job, or I really just want to do this thing in business. It's a calling. And, those of you might not call it a calling, but for those who can relate to any, whatever you call it, it pulls on you so much deeper than just something you want to do. And so what was that like for you transitioning? I'm trying to think, do I want to ask that now? I do. What was that like for you transitioning from your good government job with them benefits, something that you could have been in for, 50, 11 years, you could have retired from it. What was that like? And I mean, internally. Yes, I know God said go. Yes, I know you were like, okay, I kind of want to stay here, but what did you experience internally when you finally did leave? Like, I'm talking about putting in a resignation, sitting there for that 2 weeks, knowing that the resignation been sent. Like, what were you experiencing in that moment?
Yeah. Wow. That's funny that you said that because I thought about that not too long ago. It was interesting because I was afraid, but a different fear.
Mm-hmm.
So I was afraid because I knew that I was jumping into like an ocean. Like I was stepping into uncharted territory.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't sure of if it was going to pan out, what it was going to look like. And so I was afraid of that, but I wasn't afraid to do it because
Nicely
I
said.
knew like it was just something in me. I just knew like this is what you're supposed to do. And I knew it so well. Now, if I am honest, I there's been some other times in my life where I knew, when you say you got to know that you know that you know.
Mm-hmm.
But that moment in my life, I think trumps all of them. I knew so confidently that it was time that I told
Wow.
no one. And me and my
Wow.
mom are like this. And I was divorced by that time. So when this time came, I was just the papers just got signed on my divorce. And
Mm.
so I was like, this is not an ideal time. I have 2 young kids and I've just gotten a divorce. And my mom and I are super close. And I told no one until I
Yeah.
put in my 2-week resignation. Because
Good.
I knew that if I told
Come on.
my mother, if I told my father, if I told certain people, my grandfather who had worked for like 40 something years before he retired, that everybody would have said, you crazy.
Yes.
What are you
Yes.
doing?
Because
Like,
I just, okay, I don't want to, but it's like, I don't know about any other culture. My reality is Black. I'm a Black woman. I was raised by Black parents. I grew up around Black uncles and aunties and Black cousins and grandmamas and grandpapas. Like I grew up around the whole Black community. And that's what we know. You get your job and you go sit down. And you retire from the, especially if it's a government job. And when we say government job, can we talk? Can we say?
yeah.
Y'all? She was working at the toppest. Like, what's the toppest government job you could think of? Like, what's the biggest one that you could think of? She was working at the house. That's white over there. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So she had a good government job. So okay, keep going, keep going. Like
Yeah,
that,
no,
like
like it was just like I just knew that that's just what I had to do. And everybody was shocked at my people at my
yeah.
job. Here's the interesting part, and I'm not trying to take you somewhere else,
Do
but
you
you know
think?
how to reel me back in. The
Ah,
interesting part was that some people were shocked, but they were more shocked at the fact that the timing of when I was doing it than they were shocked that I was doing
that
it.
you're doing it. Okay.
Because the people that were around me that I was working with, they saw something else in me that was greater than that place. It was like,
See.
we're lifers, like we're going to stay here, we're going to retire. We love what we do, but there's something different about her. And they may not have always said it, but they saw it and they knew it. And so I remember walking into my director's office and handing him my resignation. He was like, whoa, like, man, but they were happy for me. They were
Yeah.
excited because they knew that I was going into something, into a place, and some people may call it their purpose or into what, the next phase of their life, but they knew that I was going into that place. And so I didn't tell people because I was a person that I loved other people's opinions. And to my detriment, where I would weigh it so much, and then it would cause a conflict within me about what I was really supposed to do.
Yeah.
And I said, no, I need to know myself, because once I jump out here into this entrepreneurial journey, if I don't know that this is what I was supposed to do, then when the voices come and the other conversations is contrary to what I did, I will fold like a lawn chair. Right? I have to be able to be strong.
I was about to take it to the folding chair, but I had to be good. I'm being good.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw my head up, and that's the sign to either swim or,
Right,
yeah.
right. See, and I love that. Sometimes, and I am not a cliche kind of lady. I do not love cliches, but some of them be holding some truth. Okay, so I'm about to throw one out there. Sometimes we gotta move in silence. Especially when it comes into the world of being an entrepreneur, because and especially, like I said, I can only speak from the Black experience. Within the Black culture, as I've experienced it, it's always about getting a good job. And there's good reason for that. I have no criticism and critique for it. I understand, there were times when we weren't allowed to have jobs that could give us some dignity and can give us benefits, and that we can feel good about doing. And as we grow and evolve as a people, we then begin to learn to identify that place that you were talking about, like that passion, that calling, and we're driven by another desire. And so that's one of the reasons why your work is so important, because even though the times are changing, some of our thinking is not changing. And so if I dare to step out into the world of entrepreneurism, I need somebody to guide me. What would you say have been some of the challenges? And you can take this in any direction that you want to, because I know it's another loaded question. What would you say have been some of the challenges that you faced either early on or even still ongoing? I'm gonna break it down a little bit more specific. The perspectives and the perceptions that people held of you as you're on this journey, and then we'll dive into some of the other spaces if we go there. Some of the ways people looked at you as you was entrepreneuring, I make up words. Yeah. As you was entrepreneuring, what was some of your experiences there?
Yeah. I would say overall, the top experience was, why would you do something so different that is not guaranteed?
Oh,
like, yeah. You are smart. You have a college degree. You had a good job. Why would you step out into a place that is not guaranteed, that could potentially jack up your life, that could potentially, you have kids? Like, why would you do that? And so for me, it was stepping on a new path and a new journey that I knew was leading me somewhere that I was supposed to go. And so it's like, I have to follow that. For me, it's kind of synonymous to the person that says, I've graduated high school or college and I'm going to go travel and explore the world. Because I need to get exposure and I need to find myself and I need to really know what it is that I want to do. And people are like, why would you do that? You need to make money. It's kind of synonymous to that. And so it was, if I can be honest, it was a little disheartening for me, because I've always been a supporter of whatever your dreams are. Like, I don't have to understand it, to support it if I love you, or if you're my friend, or I don't have to do that, right? And so, and then fast forward, now I'm in a situation where most of the people in my life that were close to me, I knew that even though they didn't understand it, they were really just trying to do their best to support. Yeah. Right. And I get it, because that's not everybody's jam and people won't always understand. But then I had people that it was really just like, it was a lot. It was just like, why are you doing that? Like, why? I don't understand that. You crazy. Like, you need to get another job. And it's just like, whoa. And then social media wasn't what it was then, but it was still popping. And, it's like, then I got subliminal messages, like posted, and, so it was definitely a challenging path to navigate.
Yeah. Did you get some of the people, they know you work from home, so they call you and like, oh, can you go pick up so-and-so, because can you go do this? Because not realizing I'm at home, but I am working and I don't have, my schedule ain't yours. And, or they'll, drop by and they'll be like, oh, I thought you were supposed to be working. You over here reading, you over here like, did you get any of that?
Yes, I got both. Toya's home. She can go to, no, but I have a schedule, because you can go to work or you can call out from work and you still get a check. If I don't stick to my schedule, or if I'm not, working on my business, even if I don't have a client, right, then I am not getting paid. So I have a schedule. And I need you to be respectful of that. And then the times that, I was working, or if you saw me and I wasn't working, maybe I was watching, I rarely watch TV, but maybe that time I was watching TV, or maybe I was just kicked back and relaxing for a minute. It's like, what you doing? You're supposed to be working. Like, you have no room to not work.
And because let's be clear, you see me kicking back, relaxing, whatever I'm doing. You didn't see me work at 2 a.m. You didn't see me working
That's
from
it.
11 p.m. to 3. You didn't see that part. But what you do see is you see me back here watching TV, and you keep all your vowels and your opinions and your consonants and your verbs to yourself.
That part. I want to touch on that. Thank you for
Please
saying
do.
that.
Please
Because
do.
that part, because my schedule really became different because early on, I think my kids were like, man, like maybe like 6 and 4, something like that. And so early on, I had to adjust to my schedule because I had a child that was in school and a child that wasn't in school. And so it's like, okay, I have to get up. I have to, cook. I have to take my son to school. And then my daughter's here with me. Let me get her settled. Then I'm going to work a little bit. But I was a very hands-on mom. So it's like, okay, I have to spend time with her. Then it's time to pick up my son. And then, so a lot of the times I was working when they were sleeping.
Yes.
Yeah. So I was up, right, in the wee hours of the morning working. So now when the person that's working a 9 to 5 is up and working, I might have been sleeping, resting, rejuvenating, or doing something. And so it's like, you don't know my schedule over here.
And you don't. And you don't.
You
How do you get through those moments? Because I know for me, it kind of stung a little bit. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and it I don't want to say it broke my heart, but it hurt my feelings a little bit because you don't know what you don't know, but yet you speak real loud, and I had to develop a process. How did you get through those spaces? Because I'm sure it don't stop just because you garner the type of success that you've garnered. People still got critiques and criticisms. How do
Yes.
you get through that?
2 things. What I said, the thing that I had to develop to even take the leap in the beginning, which was knowing within me that this was a calling for me, and for me, like staying connected to my faith and my spirituality, and just knowing, that you're supposed to like be in this space. And then also the support from my family and the few friends that did support me, like having that support, it's really helpful when you can talk to someone that, like, my mom had never been an entrepreneur, but she was seeing it firsthand. And so she was able to still offer encouragement and say, it's okay. Like, if you believe in it and nobody else does, that's all right. And, and so having those encouraging words from people in your inner circle who really care about you really, really helped as well. So because there was some times where I wanted to be like, you know what you not going, and I had
Right, with the neck and the hand. Yeah. And I have to say, like definitely finding that support. I've admired watching how your mom has your back, like how through all of the things that you do, she's been a very strong presence in those spaces. I've admired that. And I can imagine that having that type of support can be very affirming, especially through all of the stuff that, we encounter as entrepreneurs. How would you advise someone who's kind of wrestling through like the cultural norms or the family norms, you know, to find that person? Because I don't want to assume that everybody has that type of person that's that accessible, right? Mommy's is right there, right? Daddy's is right there for some people, but not for all people. What do I do if I don't have that kind of community? How can I find or create it?
Yeah, I was going to say that word, community. And you actually really helped me with that not too long ago. Because I think sometimes, because entrepreneurship is still growing and we're still learning about it, especially, Black women entrepreneurs are on the rise, right?
And is.
But yeah, and so but for me back then, it wasn't as prevalent. It was growing. And so oftentimes, you kind of get this narrative that you're just working in silo. And for so long, you get okay with that. And that's not true. And so I would say seeking out communities that have like-minded women, like women who are like you, women who are on their entrepreneurial journey, even if they still work a 9 to 5, because you don't have to, like, to me, being a full-time entrepreneur doesn't take away anything from a person that's working a 9 to 5 and building a business at the same time.
Right.
Like, we're all entrepreneurs, we're all building businesses. And so I would definitely say with social media now, social media, even some of the organizations like here in Maryland and DC, we have like the Black Chamber of Commerce, like different organizations for women in business that you can connect with, because not only will you get, and you have to find the right one, you know, you have to find the right one that's for you, but not only do you get community and you see, oh, I'm not the only person going through this. It is such a relief when you connect with, like, because you hear stories that are like your stories versus when your community is people that haven't done what you're doing. The stories are different, right? The narratives are different. And so that would be my advice. Like, even if you have to start like going to like meetups or an event where you say, hey, I'm looking for a community of women. So really what it comes down to is advocating for yourself, right? To get into those spaces of community.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And it's funny because I wanted to shift in a different direction, but I want to stay here for a little bit longer. I like the way you named the different resources. There's so many free resources out there, and then there are some that are paid. But you said finding that the people that think like you and that are, you know, in a similar path. And it doesn't necessarily mean, oh, I'm an entrepreneur and I sell t-shirts, so I have to find people who also sell t-shirts. Find entrepreneur community, because you're all on a path to self-empowering yourself to self-empowerment through your gifts, your skills, your talents, your passion. And you said it, and I just kind of want to amplify that. Being in those settings, you get to hear some of the things that you need to hear. You're not necessarily going to hear it when you're sitting down with your family who's worked in all of these different jobs for 15, 20, and 30 years. They've got a different language that they're speaking. There's a better way to say it, but I'm going to say it that way. I kind of want to flip that one too. Okay. Because when we find our community, and you did say this, you said, find the one that's right for you. Have you found your community? And have you found communities where you thought it was like, oh, this is going to be it, and then it turned out to just be full of some cattiness and some foolishness and some what have I gotten myself into? Because we got to talk about that too. It's not always peaches and creams and roses over here, right? So have you found a community, and did you have to quit some of those communities too?
Yes. Yes. So I found community in different ways. And you know what? Some of my community is an individual.
Nice.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So like, yeah, you said earlier that you're like, we homies. And so like, you're like a thought partner, right? So like, I can like talk out things and then hear you say things back. And that's community to me, because that is hearing someone outside of myself. And so, yeah, I had communities that I had to quit. I had to break up with. She not the one, this community not the one. Because, you know, it turned out to be something else. You know, the advertisement was women's empowerment, right? When you weren't really empowering at all. You know, and so I had to, I found that out, and I had to navigate through that. Or this is a community, but we gatekeep.
Come on.
Like we're gatekeeping information unless you buy into what we have and what we're giving. And I'm just not that type of person. Even with the organization I have, it's like, if you have an organization or a community that is supposed to help, then help. You know, if it's free, it's free. If there's a price, okay, cool. But like, let all of that be known up front. So there was a lot of hidden agendas, and you know, but I also think it's a part of the journey. And I think when you experience that, it builds your capacity, you know, because it's not always, like you said, it ain't peaches and cream and roses out in these entrepreneur streets, right? And so it built my capacity. So it was all right.
Yeah, and I like how you're alluding to the fact that, and you've actually said it directly as well, that you got to find the community, because there are some that should. And it's no shade. Listen, if however whatever the way you form your group and your community, it works for somebody, but it don't work for everybody. And so as you are in your journey, find the community that works for you. And there's nothing wrong with you deciding. I just had a flashback of Boomerang when it was on a little rowboat. So it was like, there's nothing wrong with Jacqueline, and there's nothing wrong. We was talking about it before, how we gonna throw a reference out immediately. There's nothing wrong with Jacqueline. So it's nothing wrong with the community. It's nothing wrong with you. Y'all just not a match. And that's okay. Go find the community that works for you, because with just like with anything, you have had, I am so sure you've had experiences where somebody be like, oh girl, you got to go to such and such a restaurant. I'm telling you, it's good. They be throwing down, and then you go in there, you be like, this what you was hyping this? Like, this is nasty. Well, it's good to them. It wasn't good to you. So you go find the one that you think, and you start hyping it, and somebody else thinks the same way. So find what works for you. I kind of want to shift a little bit, still talking about entrepreneur life, but I want to kind of shift into, mainly because we're getting into advising people to find what works for them, to look into themselves, to know that it's time for them to leave or time for them to stay. And I was thinking about, you were saying something earlier, and I was thinking about being an entrepreneur is so new to our community. And by new, I think Black people have always had a side hustle. And that's still this, like you just said, that's still the spirit of an entrepreneur. But I'm talking about full-fledged jumping out. This is how I make my money, entrepreneur. How do you withhold, or what's that word? It's not withhold. How do you hold on to who you are and allow that to be expressed through the work that you do as an entrepreneur? And how do you know when it's time to kind of stretch outside of some of those spaces? Because we do grow in some areas. So how do you let Latoya shine through the work that you do? Or do you think it's necessary for Latoya to become, whatever people expect or think in the type of work that you're doing?
Oh,
I already know the answer to this, y'all, but I'm gonna see what she's gonna say.
That's a good question. I'm a big fan of internal work, like self-work and healing and growth and identity and all. Like, I'm just a big fan of that. And that's been what has allowed me to let my authenticity come through my work.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
It's just, I've always, just as long as I can remember, been authentic. Like, for me, it's kind of been like in me, but it's been in me, meaning like, I don't ever think I was a fake person. And I never like heard people say, oh, she fake. They might have said a lot of stuff about me, but saying she fake wasn't like one of them. Right. But although I've always been authentic, it was a journey in, really becoming comfortable and confident in my authenticity in all spaces. Right. I really had to do some self-work through that. And yes, I think it's important because if we're talking about business, to me, people can spot something fake a mile away. Right. And so it's going to come out in your business, because you are your business at the end of the day. If you are late to everything, you're going to be late in your business. If you don't have great character and you lack integrity, it's going to show up in business, right? You're going to try to do shady business. So I definitely think you should be who you are in business, not putting on a mask or not saying, well, I'm not going to let them see me, especially in the time that we're in. People want to know, who's the person behind this business? Like, I want to know your story. I want to know how you evolved. Like, I want to know how you came to be able to, empower me or help me or teach me in this space. And so, yeah, and I'm still growing and evolving and learning. And as a result, my business just continues to take on new forms and, and I think it's great. Like, I didn't used to like that because I thought I had to be perfect. Everything had to be right, but I'm learning that sometimes it can be messy, while you're going through the process, but still be great. And then people are going to relate to the fact that, oh my gosh, I thought my stuff had to be perfect, but okay, you can be messy and still build something great.
Listen, and be clear, she talk about messy in terms of the process of growing.
Oh
She
yeah,
talk about messy, like
it's a
going
moment.
run around telling everybody business and stuff.
My bad.
But I have always known you to be authentic. And so that's why I asked the question. That's why I said I already know the answer, because I know you to be authentic, like in the moments when you're experiencing whatever life is lifing at you in that moment. I've always known you to show up in the sense that you like, everything ain't cute. Like, we ain't got to tell everybody all the details and everything that's going on, but I've always known you to be like, well, everything ain't cute right now, but this is what it is, and this is how we moving forward. And so to me, that's one of the things. And what's that word? I've spent money with you. Like I've used your services and the things that you do, previously in the past, and like past, and how am I saying in the future? Lord help me. We are planning some stuff, so boom. But I'm tripping. I told y'all I'm gonna be tripping. But I've utilized your services because I believe in your work, to the point that you just said, I need to know that I can trust you as an entrepreneur. From a mile away, I could be like, something ain't something in right there with you. I don't know why, but it just ain't giving. And standing in who you are in the moment, because we will grow and we will develop and we will blossom and bloom. But in each iteration of yourself, you own it and you stand it and then you just rock it. So I've always appreciated that about you. What advice would you give to somebody? And I'm gonna drag the question out a little bit just to give you time to kind of formulate your response, because I'm taking you off guard with this one. What advice would you give to someone who is in a family of, um, who's not entrepreneurial? They got the government jobs, but more specifically, they want to do their side hustle as an entrepreneur journey, but kind of what they want to do doesn't fit what other people think about them, or what other people think they should be, let alone we don't think you should be an entrepreneur. But maybe their job is taking them into their entrepreneurial endeavors is taking them into something that is outside of who people think they are or expect them to be. How can I connect with who I am and then let that shine in my business, my work as an entrepreneur? What would you say to me?
I would say to that person, oh, this is interesting. Like, to be open to the flow. I think I would say that, because the space that you're stepping into, the people in your family might not know that part of you. The people that are your friends might not know that part of you, right? And so you might be discovering that part of you, right? Because I really believe that, like, when you step into one space, that space demands something of you that is going to be needed in the next space.
Yeah.
And you don't even know that, like, you're being groomed, or those parts of you are growing in the space that you're currently in, because you're going to need it in the next space. And so I would say, like, just like be open to the flow, because for a long time I wasn't open to that. I was trying to be my authentic self. You said it, the person I knew in that moment, but I wasn't being open to receive the fullness of what that space or that part of me being an entrepreneur at the time was trying to offer me. Yes. And prepare for me, right? And so when I really leaned into it, it was like, oh my gosh, I'm growing into this and this, and I didn't know that. And so if you take the time to try to explain to people and try to, like, it's going to hold you back, it's going to slow you down, it's going to, so just be open, move forward in it, be present in it, and receive what you need to receive from it, knowing that it's going to organically take you into, the next space that you need to be in. I don't know if I answered your question, but I know I need to hear this part back for myself, because I'm in that place right now.
I'm gonna tell you what came up for me as you were talking. When you said flow, that resonated with me as ease. That resonated with me as no pressure. We just about to just go with the flow. Be open to it, ride it. Don't be trying, I got to explain it to you. I got to make sure you approve. I got to make sure you like it. No, be open to the flow. And what I thought about, you want to say something? Because this, go for it.
No, go.
I was just going to say, it also made me think about how, and I'm not supposed to preach, y'all. We're not supposed to have service, but I am going to say, it made me think about, when Jesus was doing all the things that he was doing. People was like, man, there ain't nobody but Joseph's little boy. That is Mary and his son. You remember that bench he made for me? You remember when he built you that thing? That ain't nobody but. And so in the place where they knew him in his family of origin, his community of origin, people were used to him in one way, but there was so much more that he was bringing and was meant to bring in. And those people, they missed out on it because they wasn't open to receive it. So he still stepped into that space. So when you were talking about being open in the flow, and then you said step into it, like that literally is what brought that up for me, because I don't have to rely on y'all and your perception of me, because I'm still learning some of it. Like, I love that you said that, because there are parts of me that I'll be like, it was little hints to something, back in the day, like little something. But as it matures, as I move forward, it's like, wait a minute, this thing, okay, I ain't got time to listen to what they got to say, because I got somewhere to go, and I'm gonna do it with ease. I gotta go. Oh, I love that.
You don't even know. Listen. This was a confirmation to me, because this morning, in my devotion time, sometimes, y'all, my devotion time is I'm literally laying in the bed. Like, out the bed. I don't know. Some people do that. That's great. I'm not a morning person. So no, I'm laying in the bed. And I literally said, I invite, welcome, and accept ease into my life. I literally said that this morning. That's why I was like, oh my gosh. Like, I literally said that this morning. And you said something, since you wanted to talk about Mary and Joseph's boy. And you said how everybody thought, he just the carpenter, he just builds stuff. But one of the things, if you read the Bible, if you've heard this before, like, we talk about the silent years of Jesus. That means years that we'll know nothing else about him until he pop up on the scene and start like turning water into wine at the party. And so what I thought about with that was, sometimes we have to step off the scene, and it could be the physical scene. It could be just like the scene of social media. It could be, I'm not going to be telling you everything I'm about to do, that I'm working on, because I need this time to develop and grow and lean into what it is that I am doing. So when I come back out and I present myself, or I release this program or this service or this product, that it's what it needs, it needs to be, right? So I think of those silent years of Jesus, like that he was 12 years old and he was doing stuff, and y'all thought he was the carpenter. Now he's coming back, and they saying, who just made us have more wine at the? Is that the same dude?
That's the one, same one. I'm gonna take a drink of my water and see when she.
Is it gonna be wine?
It's still water. Yeah, it's still water. It's still water. That's fine. We'll deal with that. But no, I love that. I super love that, because one of the things that I'm getting as I'm talking with you and hearing all the things that you're saying is that your entrepreneur journey is your entrepreneur journey. Yes, we need a community to help us so that we can kind of like, grow in our understanding, and we can have that community. We can have people that speak in the same language as us, but it's your work, because ultimately, like, and you said this too, people are buying you. You said it way better than I did, so I'm gonna try to. I don't know what I'm gonna do with that. That was gross. But people are buying what they understand of you. They see what you represent. They hear, how you present, and that is what attracts them to your brand. That's what they want. They're like, oh, and think about it. We do it all the time. There's so many commercials. There's so many billboards. There's so many things that we see, and they say, oh, here's this thing, and you're like, nope, don't want it. Why? Because it's not clicking with something inside of you. And it's the same way. So as you're on that journey, it belongs to you. It totally belongs to you. So one thing I will ask you, which was one of the planned questions. Every interview I do have planned questions, but I 100% deviate all the time. But I've seen how you work. I've seen your work ethic. And when I say work ethic, I mean how you commit to the work that you do, how you push, how you press, how you persist. I've seen the passion that you put in your work, and how when you're putting something out, it's not just, oh, let me just, put this together, it's whatever. Like it's intention behind it. You want to make sure that what you're producing and creating is something that people want. Where do you get that from? Like, where do you get that work ethic from? Was it just who you've always been, or is it from some other place?
I think a mix of both.
Fair.
I think it's a part of how I've been, because I had some moments where I was kind of like, I'm over this. I'm not about to. I remember my college days. So part of it was that, but I also think it's really about like passion for me, and like what I love. Like, well, even when I was working a job, like I didn't hate my job, but it wasn't like, oh, I love this, you know?
Yeah.
And so I had a work ethic about myself even then. I think for me, it's just was tied somehow to just personal integrity. Like I just wanted to say that whatever it was that I did my best, whatever that was in the moment, right? And I also think now, as an entrepreneur with some years, in the game, it's drive, and it's my goals, right? That drive me to work like that. And I just said this the other night, when I was teaching on my live, that there was a moment that I had to elevate. And what I mean by that is, some people thought that what I did was amazing, but I knew that it was just what I could do with my eyes closed. Right.
Okay.
It was just like, so I think we all have gifts. Something like is your thing that you just do, that you, if other people say that's amazing, you like, girl, I just knitted that sweater together. It only took me 30 minutes. And people think people think it's amazing, and it is, but I could have made a whole poncho out of this had I like pressed the limits and challenged myself. And so I did have a moment where my work ethic had to be revised, if you will, right? Because if I was going to get to the places that I desire and that my goals, reflected, I had to turn up like my work ethic and say, no, you can push the envelope on this a little bit more, right? And so I think it was a combination of who I've always been, but my goals were kind of putting a demand on a different work ethic.
Nicely said. That also makes me think about integrity, because like you said, people can be like, oh my God, this is so great. And it really is. And you're like, you don't even know I did that in 2 seconds. Like I just kind of put that together. And so nobody knows that but you. And because of the integrity behind your work, you like, I know I can do more. I know I can go harder. We could talk, and we have talked for hours, and I don't want to we won't do that on this setting, but you've already given us, I've already asked you to, I think it's been 3 times in just this time frame alone. So I like to invite my guests to have the final say. I literally don't mind doing that, because that's the whole purpose of this web series, is to amplify the voices of Black women and all of our amazingness and all of our awesomeness. So as I end, I'm going to say my last piece, and I'm going to pull from your bio to ask you to speak to something, and then I'm going to give you the floor. So just to give you time to think about it, in your bio, it talks about how you activate high-performing women leaders to own their difference, to be the exception, and to create a revolution. And I want to ask you, I don't know how I'm trying to isolate it down when you talk about creating a revolution. And I'm going to give you some time to think about this while I say my closing thing, because you're going to have the last word. When you talk about creating a revolution, where, with whom? What is that revolution that I'm equipped to create? And you can answer that however you want to, but I want to know that I'm that high performing woman that you're talking to. And it's something in me. I know I want to make a difference, but how do I know that what I am called to do is to create a revolution versus making a difference? Because I feel like those two are different. So whatever that brings up for you, you can answer it in any kind of way that it resonates for you. I'm going to say this as you pull your thoughts together in that space. I'm very grateful that you exist in this space, because I think that you represent the, I don't want to use that word, but I'm going to just use it. I don't want to use that word. I get that way. The unicorns. I didn't want to use it. You represent that segment of the population that just dared to be different. You decided that I'm going to follow this calling, because some of us take for granted that because we have a calling that it's an automatic yes. That's not the case with a lot of people. And so I appreciate the fact that you exist, because you exemplify that person who heard it and who stepped into it and who continues to do that. And I can say from personal experience that you allow that to still guide you, God to still guide you in your journey, and you hold on to that with integrity. And so I'm grateful that you exist. I'm very glad that you exist. Oh my gosh, where can we find you? What is your website? How can I hook up with you? What you in the works with? Like, tell me about you, and then give us your advice for that high performing woman leader.
Okay. Yeah, so she didn't tell me that what she was gonna say was gonna make me want to like hold back my tears, you know.
Cry. Go do your thing. Do your thing.
Yes, but I love that, amplifying the voices of Black women. I love that. I love that. And my branding, mine just kicked in. I was like, oh, that's such a great. That's so that that's great.
She gonna come at me later. I'm gonna tell you.
Yes.
She always be teaching me stuff.
Yes, that is so great. So you can find me on Instagram, Twitter with the X now, Facebook at latoyabofficial, and you can go to Lnk, that's lnk.bio/LatoyaB. You can find me there with all the things. I'm revamping my website and for all the goodness that's coming. And I'm working on a few things, so we'll see what comes out of that. And you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Boardroomchicks. You can follow me there because that's my women in business organization. So you can follow me there. We're always looking for women to feature and to highlight in our newsletter or to have Instagram chats with. So we would love to have you. And so to answer your final question, I think to answer the creative revolution part, I want to touch on the be the exception part, because I think as high performing women leaders, if you're ambitious, if you're driven, if like you have that work ethic and what you have is amazing, and it's to reach other people outside of yourself, right? I consider you a high performing woman, right? And then when be the exception is really about knowing that the rules don't have to apply to you, right? And that you can make your own rules and you can be the exception, and you can find open doors in places that was closed for other people, right? You can find opportunities and favor and increase and whatever those things are where other people didn't. And so you can be the exception and stand out. And when you own that and walk in that, it creates a revolution within you. And when there is a revolution that's created within you, it's just magnetic. Like, it's attractive. It multiplies, it catches on with other people, right? And it shows up in the work that you're doing. And that's what really, at the end of the day, empowers other people to say, oh my gosh, she did that. Like, wow, I'm empowered and I can do that too, right? And so the creating a revolution is different from making a difference. I think making a difference is like, I'm going to go do this work that's going to impact somebody. But when you create a revolution, you're creating this full transformation within yourself that you embody, like through your work and in every facet of your life and how you show up in all the different ways. So I'll just say, for that high performing woman leader, when you go in rooms, go into those rooms with all of you. Don't leave nothing at home.